DeFi protocols are feeling the demand for Latin America. Talking with the Uniswap team, I've realized that this region is one of the most important. Circle officially launched the Circle Payments Network.
Yeah.
It's like a SWIFT for banks instead of using traditional rails on stablecoin rails.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
For you to go from leading the Amazon of Latin America to now focusing on MELI Dollar, right, which is a stable coin, I mean, that's just insane. And I've seen so many incredible founders recently leaving their companies at really established places that people would absolutely die to work for to now focus on working on stablecoins.
Yeah.
And it's become this massive sinkhole.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Frontera the podcast, where we analyze what's happening in crypto in Latin America. My name is Ab. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bando. I'm with Kush, founder of Odisha Lab, and we are in the Uniswap House, Mexico City. Dude, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here? I mean, look at this. We're in a little podcast room, recording studio, meeting room here in Mexico City. Uniswap is essentially doing this on-chain, on-the-ground activation. They're visiting 4 key markets, so Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina over the course of the next couple of months. And yeah, man, super excited to be here recording with you. Direct from the Uniswap House. We've got a whole bunch of great community members outside, which is really exciting. And we said, hey, we got to record now here in the space. So what's your take? I mean, you came to a dinner that we did last night. You've been hanging out here quite a lot. What are you seeing here at the Uniswap House?
Well, so I think that one of my main takeaways is that DeFi protocols are feeling the demand for Latin America. Talking with the Uniswap team, I've realized that this region is one of the most important. And when I asked, why do you come to Mexico and to Latin America? They told us that there were 2 regions in the world that basically they haven't addressed in a long time, and they have a lot of volume from these regions. The first one was Asia, and they did all this Uniswap tour in Asia a couple of months ago, and now it's Latin America. So I feel that they are exploring the market.
Yeah.
And I really hope, meeting the whole team, that this is just the beginning of their expansion in Latin America. Also, we chat a lot with Ren, that he's leading the international expansion team, that he's leading also marketing. So I think that there's a big opportunity that's coming for Latin America. And also, this validates our thesis on Frontera. From day one, this is the most important region for crypto in the world.
Yeah.
And definitely, if you haven't read our newsletter, you should definitely subscribe to our newsletter. We just published today one of the best reports we've ever done, a report about Felix Pago. Dude, what's your take on first Uniswap House and then Felix Pago?
I think it's been really fun hanging out here at the Uniswap House. One of the things that I think is really special, so everyone constantly talks about how great the Uniswap brand is, but honestly, fundamentally, at the end of the day, what I think is incredibly important for Uniswap in particular is how lovely the people are. And I think that speaks volumes about the culture that one then ultimately propagates over the course of, the entire set of what your company looks like, what you do, how you operate, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm really happy. It's been great working very closely with Uniswap team, great cooking with the Espacio Crypto team as well. Man, I mean, honestly, I'm honored and overjoyed just to be here and just to be working amongst such incredible people. It's kind of that dream in a way that one has of, one day you're like, oh, I'd love to do things with Espacio Crypto and these amazing, projects. And one day you wake up and that's sort of the case. So just feeling grateful, to be honest.
Definitely.
And,
something really important is that the best projects work with the best projects.
Exactly.
I mean, and we've been saying for a long time that we produce the best content about crypto in Latin America. This is proof of that. And also the essay, man. Have you read the essay?
Yeah, I haven't had the full chance yet, but what I will say, this is like a deep dive on Felix, and that Felix recording that we did, I left. Whenever you record a podcast and when it's really good, you walk away with like this electric energy in you.
Definitely.
And I felt super energized after that Felix podcast, and I had a bunch of friends reach out and be like, "That was amazing." I mean, let's walk through the essay and take a look at what's happening here.
So we created this essay and we published it today. So definitely, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, again, you should. Basically, we go through the story of Felix Pago, but like really fast, And then we did this financial analysis. Joker and I did this financial analysis and this financial model about how much revenue they'll do in the next 12 months. How big is the market share that they'll address? And basically, it looks really promising.
Yeah.
Really, really promising. I think that definitely Felix is they're in their way to become a unicorn.
Yeah.
And I won't be surprised if in 16 to 24 months they first become a unicorn and in a couple of years they become public, or like this one of these gigantic companies buys them.
Totally.
They're crushing it, man.
Yeah, they're crushing it. And I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about some other upcoming news, but truly, I think some of the theses that we hold here at Frontera is the following, right? So Latin America is the most important region for crypto, and all money will come on chain.
Yeah.
And so
at least 2 trillion.
Yeah, exactly. And so that the combination of both of those things, I think it is exemplified in Felix as a product, essentially. And I was just having a really great conversation with someone today, how the beautiful thing about Felix is when you think about the design of the product, it's built on freaking WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It is built on WhatsApp, right? It's I have one particular question with regards to platform risk, because Meta has been known predatory with their platform. What do you think about sort of the long-term play here for Felix? They are building a really loyal customer base, right? And so eventually maybe you pour over, and we spoke about what do you build beyond
maybe a wallet, something like that.
Exactly. But what do you build beyond just a simple WhatsApp message, but rather like a fully integrated wallet? How do you think about platform risk, how that affects products, and particularly how that relates to Felix?
I think that for this stage of the company, it's been a great distribution model. I think that it's the same platform risk than products like, for example, in Bando today we are integrated with MiniPay and we are a mini app. And before that first integration, we had around 500 people visiting the app, and today we have 30,000 people.
Right.
So we have a lot more distribution.
Right. Yeah.
And if you say like, what's the platform risk? Okay, yeah, definitely. There's some, but I mean, if the risk is growing really fast, as Felix, to raise $75 million in a couple of years, I'll take that risk.
Totally.
I mean,
totally.
And the thing is that Felix specifically right now, they're in this moment that they can create a wallet where they can own the user, the whole flow. And maybe WhatsApp is just the first acquisition channel.
Yeah.
So instead of becoming like a platform risk, it's a matter of where do you have more acquisition. So I'm really bullish on them, and also meeting their team. They're really cool. They are chill people, just grinding and building top products. So super bullish on them, man.
Totally agree.
So let's start with the first news of this week. So Circle officially launched the Circle Payments Network.
Yeah.
So that went live.
Yeah.
And we did a deep dive on this, understanding what it is. So basically what it is, in our understanding, is like a SWIFT for banks instead of using traditional rails on stablecoin rails. Yeah. And that's huge. And why are we talking about this in Frontera? So basically they have like a sender or a receiver, and the bank sends information through the Circle Payments network to another bank to process and settle the whole payment. So instead of a bank doing like, hey, I'm going to send you $50 through Ethereum or Solana or whatever, the bank sends them through APIs the defined information about the amount, the user, KYC, how much they need to allocate, and then they settle on stablecoins. Yeah. And this is really important because the two main markets where they're launching today, it's then again Asia and Latin America.
Right.
Which were the markets where Uniswap went? Asia and Latin America. So then again, if you want to know about Latin America,
where did
this is
launch
the place.
their cards? Latin America.
Exactly. So there's a huge demand for stablecoins.
Yeah.
And we wanted to talk about this because we see the relevance of basically the most important USD-centric, or like USA-centric stablecoin company, Circle, launching this. I think that this is another way of bringing adoption, so that with this, that basically makes simple for traditional companies to receive stablecoins, like in a way to identify deposits, plus custody. Basically, they can do SWIFT on chain.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking about how the fact that, you know, tens of trillions of dollars basically move around these global payment networks each year. And I think that Circle in particular, they announced or they filed a lot of, yeah, we can see here, right? Exactly. They're looking to launch here. And uh, Circle Payments Network is now open in Mexico and Brazil, which are the two markets that we've spoken often about as well, right?
Exactly.
So when I speak with a lot of traditional finance and fintech companies here, many have been surfacing the fact that they want to get off the SWIFT system because it takes days, because they end up taking, I don't know, 50 to 100 basis points in the commission for sending the money. And so people are looking for alternatives. I think the architecture behind CPN in theory should make this like a very seamless process. I love that obviously Mexico and Brazil are the first two markets that they're looking to launch this in Latin America. It's the
Yep.
two most important markets, particularly, remittances in Mexico. And then I think particularly the exporting in Brazil and all the money that sort of moves there in the country too across borders, right? So Brazil is notorious for essentially being exporters of goods. And so I'm sure this will sort of facilitate a lot of that money movement too. Um, I think it begs the question like why Circle would choose to do this. Like why isn't Tether like it seems that Tether is going perhaps a little bit more of the native on-chain way. They launched USDT Zero, for example, that leverages Layer Zero's infrastructure to be able to move money seamlessly across chains. Circle, being more institutional, is taking much more of this. Okay, actually, we want to work very closely with banking operators across the world, essentially, to move money around. And I think Paolo, who's the CEO of Tether, recently said, look, MiCA, we're not going to comply with MiCA regulations. We're going to shut down our European operations because it just simply doesn't align with this sort of very Bitcoin cypherpunk ethos. So, how do you contextualize CPN within the wider framework within Circle sort of sits within?
I think that it's for me it's really simple. The market, the target market for Circle is dollars in the USA, and institutions that need to have something to do, and institutions that need to have something to do with dollars in the United States.
Yeah.
Tether, the market size for Tether is the euro dollar market. That basically that's dollars outside of the USA.
Yeah.
So the best way to get dollars outside of the USA right now is through Tether.
Right.
So when you think about that, the other day I was at the PayFi Summit in Solana Accelerate that I
Yeah.
was last week there.
Yeah.
And then again, I see how people don't really understand stablecoins.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about this news about Bank of America and Chase, and I don't know how many big banks in the US making an alliance to launch a stablecoin. And they were saying they are going after Tether because they want part of that market. And I said, like, no, they don't want that market. They want the market of USDC. It's a different market, and we
Right.
need to understand it.
Yeah.
It's not the same dollars in the USA and dollars outside of the USA. So how I see is that Tether has been cracking dollars outside the USA, and I think that maybe this movement from USDC is a little way to try to address that, because the way to get dollar like stablecoins compliant in the USA, Circle is the best. If they want to go a little bit outside of that like geography, it's really hard for them because connecting with banks and all of that is super hard.
Right.
Maybe this is the way in which USDC is trying to tackle a little bit the institutional, more like traditional part of USDT that USDT is addressing outside
Yeah.
of the United States.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that take, and I think that it's sort of this divergent thought that we see often in crypto, where there's again the cypherpunks who came into this world because wanted sort of sovereign money, and I think Tether tries to really express that. And then I think there's the people who see this very pragmatically from a technology angle,
Yeah.
and from an capital efficiency standpoint, say actually this is just a much better way. And I think a lot of people are actually coming to crypto now because of that, right?
Yeah.
One of the big rumors that we have for this week, that is not yet confirmed, but I think is sort of speaks to some extent about this, is the following. So run us through what we're seeing here.
Yeah. So this is part true and part rumor. So
Okay.
the part that is true is that the CEO of MercadoLibre is stepping aside and moving to be a chairman. He's one of the founders. He's been leading MercadoLibre like for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Just to size the market, just for people outside of Latin America that don't know who MercadoLibre is. MercadoLibre is the Amazon of Latin America.
Yeah.
And it's a company of $129 billion. It's a public company, and that's the market cap. And their founder CEO is stepping aside, and the rumor is that he's stepping aside to focus on the MELI Dollar. That is the stablecoin of MercadoLibre. So,
which we previously covered as well.
yeah, which we previously covered. So why do we say that this is a rumor? Because Marcos Galperin, that he was, or he's the CEO of MercadoLibre, is stepping down on January 2026.
Yeah.
And he published this letter where he says, like, it's time for me to move on. I'm going to be, I think that executive chairman. Yeah, executive chairman. He's moving to an executive chairman position.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say that he's moving to focus on the MELI Dollar.
Right.
So that's the rumor side. And just that this is a rumor.
Yeah.
Like that he's moving away from MELI to focus on a stablecoin.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's super worth analyzing because it's another validation of how this market is going to be. And it's already big.
Totally. So it speaks to this notion that we were just discussing earlier, which has to do with, okay, so people are coming to crypto not necessarily because they believe in the cyberpunk ideals, but actually rather because they see the capital efficiency that comes along with this industry. We already know that MELI has been for a long time sort of a strong advocate of crypto to some extent. They hold Bitcoin reserves, they have the MELI Dollar, et cetera, et cetera. If this is true, this is huge. Because it means that stablecoins are now the most important. For you to go from leading the Amazon of Latin America to now focusing on MELI Dollar, right, which is a stablecoin, I mean, that's just insane, right? So I think that and I've seen so many incredible founders recently leaving their companies at really established places that people would absolutely die to work for to now focus on working on stablecoins.
Yeah.
And it's become this massive sinkhole. The question is it a red ocean or is it truly an opportunity? Is there that much opportunity?
Yeah. Also, just to size, because maybe you've never heard about Marcos Galperin, his net worth is 10 billion.
Right.
So he's a billionaire.
Right.
Running one of the most important companies in Latin America.
Yeah.
And basically, the thing that you said is stablecoins this is a hot take. 2025 stablecoins is 2023 GPTs. So everybody was so hyped about ChatGPT and how AI was going to move everything. It created a bubble. 2024, we went through this valley of this, like where people see, okay, yeah, it's going to be super transformative, but we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. I think that this is the hype year for stablecoins.
Yeah.
So maybe next year we're going to say, okay, it's going to take a little more, but in 4 or 5 years, $2 trillion of stablecoins.
Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, it's all gonna happen. It'll all happen on stablecoins. I think where do you, as someone who works on stablecoins, is an interesting question. Where do you choose to focus on? Do you choose to focus on issuing stablecoins? What does that stablecoin look like? Is it a yield-bearing stablecoin? Where does the yield come from? How's your stablecoin collateralized? Are they local stablecoins? Do you focus on inter-stablecoin money movements? Like, there's so many places in the stack that one can focus on. What do you think is kind of where value accrues?
Well, like the middle core take is always in the base layer and in the user layer, right? So in the minting of stablecoins, like in the issuing of stablecoins, and the Felix Pago of the world, like that interact with users using stablecoins in some way. Like all the middle layer is going to be a red ocean.
Totally.
Definitely it's going to be a red ocean.
Totally. I think we won't see too many, is it a winner take most market, right? Do we have 5 players basically win the market?
I think that maybe, actually, this is also a good take. In the next 4 years, the most important acquisitions in Latin America will be around stablecoins.
I can definitely see that happening.
Someone will acquire Bitso, someone will acquire one of the big players or the players that we published in our on-chain FX Red Ocean, that was one of the best pieces in Frontera. Someone's going to acquire, I don't know, one of these local stablecoin like middleware. And those are going to be the largest acquisitions in Latin America.
Totally. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that happen as well. So, cool. So we got some more news.
Dude, I have a challenge
else?
for us. I have a challenge for us.
Yeah.
whichever is the first stablecoin acquisition in Latin America, they should have gone through Frontera. I mean,
Great.
if we miss that, I don't know what we're doing.
I think we'll definitely have all the companies that come through here. At least a few of them will be acquired.
I hope
I
so.
have no doubt in my mind.
Let's
Yeah,
do the Frontera
absolutely.
index. Like
Absolutely.
everything that
Yeah, the
touches
Frontera
Frontera.
Index. Well, that's the idea with this whole entire project, right? Is how do we provide indices for people to be able to invest in
Yeah.
American innovation?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're making the best content in the region, and I'm sure
Let's
that'll
fucking
happen.
go.
So I want to run really fast through this couple of news.
Yeah.
The first one is that a bank in Brazil is using the XRP's blockchain.
Yeah.
It's Brasa Group to launch a stablecoin.
Yeah.
Also, the Colombian government is doing a partnership with Cosmos to test a CBDC.
Yeah.
And the Banco Industrial de Guatemala
Yeah.
is implementing stablecoins through SucuPay
Yeah.
in Polygon to facilitate remittances.
This might be the first time Guatemala's on Frontera.
Yeah, well,
and I'm so happy.
You're
And from Guatemala, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's great to see my small little country on the news.
And so a couple of things. The first one is XRP and Cosmos.
Yeah.
Like random decisions, I think.
This is the thing, man. Like this is the people who listen to this podcast are super crypto native, right? And this is precisely our audience. It's basically people who
are investing, building, or founding things.
Exactly. And but they're people that also can tell you about a product like JLP that exists on Solana. And it's like a Jupiter's leveraged trading perpetual like token.
Yeah.
And you can also think about sort of the crypto context in Latin America. These people that are making these decisions with regards to where they should deploy CBDCs, I'm going to guess have maybe know what MetaMask is, maybe on a good day, right? And so what concerns me is that we aren't, particularly at the national level, taking the best decisions that ultimately benefit open systems that are not closed off and that have a meaningful role to play in this particularly DeFi ecosystem. Because it's what we've talked about with Felix as well. We said, hey, listen, what happens to the Guatemalan Quetzal when you can, you have some sort of iteration of it that is on Aave, for example, then you can take loans out against it or whatever. So my problem is that if we're creating like a CBDC asset on some very isolated ledger, like XRP, for example, like XRP actually moves a lot of value. But it's not like there's a very robust ecosystem there. Or on Cosmos as well. Like there isn't that much happening. Right. There are much more robust, the Ethereum ecosystem, Solana ecosystem. I mean, maybe the move-based ecosystems are sort of on the rise, but this is what deeply concerns me is and I think what we, as a challenge for us as well, is we need to be at those conversations, essentially guiding people to say, hey, instead of deploying it on this random blockchain that no one uses, how about you do it on a meaningful blockchain that people actually want?
I think that also it's a matter of these are BD news.
Yeah.
It's not technology news.
Right.
Because the deal was signed by the BD team. And that's basically lobbying, going to conferences, those sort of things. And when that happens, the problem for the institutions that run this is that they will fall into the innovator's dilemma, because in their mindset, I think that they say, okay, if I launch in a public blockchain, I don't have any moats, right? But if I launch it with this specific random that might be more institutional in their eyes, I can create more moat. But the thing is that technology will overrun that.
Totally.
I think that a startup that has gone through Frontera will win versus these big banks.
Yeah.
As always, eventually and then suddenly.
Yeah.
Slowly and then suddenly.
Yeah. And the same, it's like these conversations that I have with people around hey, are these central banks ever going to allocate into Bitcoin? And no, absolutely not. Okay, so what happens with that central bank, right? What happens in a world where Bitcoin is worth $1 million a coin, right? And all of a sudden, the people now have an insane amount of value in their hands. And, maybe if you just hold Swiss francs and, euros and whatever, we create this sort of imbalance of power. I mean, I think this is sort of playing things out 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
But that is where I think the world will head. Unless these governments are very innovative and forward-thinking, like El Salvador, like Singapore.
But I mean, only countries like Singapore in the 50s and El Salvador in the 20s had the incentives to do something like that.
Right.
right? It's hard
It's
to
the
grasp
innovator's
it.
dilemma, right? You have to take that step to think completely outside of the box
Yeah.
and then 10x your growth, right?
Yeah, man, really exciting week.
Yeah.
Really excited to be in Mexico City in the Uniswap
man.
House. This is our last
In
IRL
person, I know.
for the time being.
Sometime we'll see. We'll see. We got some things cooking that
You need to move.
might mean that we spend more time together. Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you for everything.
Yeah.
Follow Frontera in Twitter. Follow Kush. Follow me. We're gonna put our handles down there and subscribe to the newsletter. Dude, thank you for this episode. See you next
Boom.
time.
Thank you, everybody. Ciao.